Like the thousands of Americans who went to work in New York City on September 11, 2001, Joe Ditmar never thought he would be a witness to history. Ditmar was one of those who survived the attacks on the World Trade Center towers that day. He sat down with Steve KILTONIC to talk about his harrowing 9/11 experience and escape from the South Tower.
This is CNN Breaking News.
This just in, you were looking at obviously a very disturbing live shot there. That is the World Trade Center, and we have unconfirmed reports this morning that a plane has crashed into one of the towers of the World Trade Center.
On the morning of September 11, 2001, 19 militants of the Islamic terrorist group Al-Qaeda hijacked 4 airlines and carried out suicide attacks against the United States. 2 of the targets were the World Trade Center's Twin Towers in New York City. At 8:45 a.m., American Airlines Flight 111 out of Boston ripped into the North Tower above the 90th floor, instantly killing hundreds and trapping hundreds more in higher floors. 18 minutes later, a second Boeing 767 struck the South Tower, near the 80th floor, showering debris over the surrounding buildings and streets below. Later, a third plane crashed into the Pentagon outside of Washington, D.C. And a fourth jet, on an apparent collision course with our nation's capital, disappeared over a field in Pennsylvania. Almost 3,000 died in the attacks, including nearly 350 firefighters and paramedics, and 60 New York City and Port Authority police officers. In the South Tower that historic day was Joe Ditmar. Ditmar told the story of his escape from the doomed South Tower at the Worcester Diocesan Catholic Men's Conference held at Assumption College last spring. His talk was called Free Will and Choice, Practical Lessons from a Day of Destiny. Then a resident of Illinois, Ditmar was in New York attending a meeting of commercial insurance executives.
I was invited to attend a meeting at Aon Corporation that day. The meeting was to be held on the 105th floor of 2 World Trade Center, the South Tower.
The meeting began late, like many previous insurance meetings Joe attended.
It was a beautiful day that day in September. Absolutely beautiful September, clear, crisp day. And at 8:48, the lights flickered. We were in an internal conference room, so we couldn't see anything. We didn't hear anything. We didn't feel anything. We just had this flicker of lights, and one of the gentlemen, Rick Blood from Aon Corporation, came bounding into the room. He said there'd been an explosion in the North Tower, so we had to evacuate.
Reluctantly, they began to walk down.
You had a critical decision to make at 90. The door to the fire stairwell on 90 was propped open, so I followed everybody out. Probably the worst 30, 40 seconds of my life to look out those windows to the north and see this incredible sight. Big black holes in the sides of the building, and gray and black billows of smoke and flames redder than any red I'd ever seen in my life. Looking up the sides of the building, and you see that. You see furniture, you see paper, you see people being pulled out of the building against their will. Absolutely gruesome, awesome sight. And it was, I was so afraid. I've never felt that afraid before in my life.
Others remained behind mesmerized. At 78, Mary, the woman who asked him to attend the meeting, was calling him.
She wants me to go to the elevator with her. And I kind of politely waved to her, never said a word, turned and went back to the stairwell. And I tell people all the time that was arguably the best decision I've ever made.
Joe was between floors 74 and 72 as United Airlines Flight 175 was quickly descending, its sight set directly on the South Tower. When the plane ripped through the building between floors 77 and 83, it was just 4 floors above Ditmar.
Wow. You're in this concrete bunker of a fire stairwell, and this thing just starts shaking so violently. Concrete was spidering out, and the handrails breaking away from the wall, and the steps like waves in the ocean undulating underneath our feet. And you feel this heat ball, and you smell this jet fuel, and this thing's rocking and rolling back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and it felt like forever. But it was probably seconds, maybe a minute, and it had finally stopped.
It was the only moment Ditmar thought he would die. Miraculously, he was left unscathed. At the 35th floor, Joe met the first responders, the cops, firefighters, and paramedics, going up.
Just the looks in their eyes told the whole story without any words being spoken. Just the looks in their eyes. They knew they were going up the steps to try to save lives they couldn't save. And they knew that they were going up those steps to try to fight a fire that they could not beat. And they knew that they were going up and they were never coming back. I don't know how anybody could be that brave. I don't know.
Joe's group finally reached the lobby level, where he saw the aftermath of the attacks. People with gaping wounds, missing limbs, and outside, the red blotches of those who had jumped. Of the 54 who attended the meeting, only 6 others made it out alive. He was 8 blocks north of Ground Zero when the South Tower collapsed. Joe eventually got out of New York on a train, and within 36 hours was back in Aurora, Illinois with his wife and 4 kids. In 2002, Ditmar gave his first presentation, sharing his memories and observations of 9/11. Joe founded the Always Remember Initiative, whose mission is to keep alive the voices, spirits, and memories of the 3,000 victims who perished that fateful day. Ditmar, who lives in North Carolina, gives 50 to 60 talks a year on behalf of the initiative.
I really think that the ability to talk about it has been a catharsis, has been a therapy that has helped me immensely. And it's also given me a reason, a cause.
Joe doesn't accept any money for his talks, but asks that anyone who cares to make a donation send it to the Chatham, North Carolina 9/11 First Responders Memorial. The memorial, which he's helping build, features a donated beam from the World Trade Center. The main lessons he learned from his 9/11 experience are: 1, there are no guarantees in life; 2, America is no longer invulnerable to terrorist attacks; 3,
we need to continue to be who we want to be, which is freedom-loving, liberty-loving Americans. We can't give that up.
and 4,
Don't sweat the small stuff. Having an occurrence like this happen in your life makes you realize what really are the priorities in life. It's you, those you love, and your God that are the most important things.
A devout Catholic, Ditmar said his faith never wavered that September day.
And if you didn't believe in divine providence before that day or after that day, you were never going to believe, because you needed the helping hand that I got from the man above. And there's no doubt in my mind. It only strengthened what I already knew.
Ditmar, who has a 9/11 tattoo on his wrist, believes if he reaches just one person in the audience, he's done his job.
Because if somebody remembers and doesn't forget and carries the story of these folks forward, it's a good day. It is my passion. It is my goal. It is my thing that I got to keep doing this.
Joe hopes his always remember and never forget philosophy will continue to live on in the hearts and minds of all Americans this year and on all future 9/11 anniversaries. For Real to Real, I'm Steve KILTONIC.
To learn more about Joe Ditmar's speaking engagements or the 9/11 First Responder Memorial Foundation, we have a link at iobserve.org.